Sorry about the late start. I'm still trying to figure out what was going on. Bases dropped, a new round of soccer down here. And since like 8:30 this morning, and of course this is me, so anything is humanly possible. Just trying to figure out, okay, how, all right, so full disclosure, I now have a third computer in addition to the television and the two computers that I've traditionally had. So trying to orient everything and make sure that everything is in one piece and that we're all, in one place. I hadn't changed anything when it came to any and all of the wiring or anything that had to do with all of this setup. And so since about 8:30 this morning, I'm changing batteries and mouses. Jarrett, I had no earthly idea what was going on. You're sitting there, you're checking inputs, you're changing batteries. It's like, okay, what's going on? And so that's why we were 7 minutes late this morning, is because I was trying to figure out what in the wide world of sports was causing the delay when it came to the computer. I just turned the computer off and turned it back on, and that's what got me going.
Oh, there you go. See, in my personal philosophy, if the computer is giving you problems, two things. One, put it in a bin of magnets. See if that helps.
Yes.
See if it magnetizes all the bad things, gets it out of there. Second, sometimes you just want to clean it up, and a nice little bath of salt water for your computer can go a long way.
Yes, and trust me, I have done that. So Bart Keeler is going to be joining us in a little bit, and he'll be here to talk about the USWNT and anything else on his mind. Opening Kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, Kickoff Coffee CO. There's your QR code. Just going to sit there and put it right in the middle of the screen so folks can't miss it. KickoffCoffeeCO.com. You can follow Kickoff Coffee on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase, and then they in turn take 10% and reinvest it in the youth game. So the question for the morning, it's more like an observation. The 5-second rule. I was having breakfast this morning. Morning, Alex. And, you're having, I'm having my standard blueberry muffin, And so the
Jason,
food.
think of John's computer as think of it as the old iBook. If you had early 2000s iBook, the Macintosh laptop that was clear except for the edges of it were a color, generally orange or blue.
Mm-hmm.
That's about what you're dealing with, except it's on a PC, but that's what I imagine it would be.
Yeah. So 5-second rule this morning. Yeah, and I'm right there with you, Nick. Sometimes I'm kind of surprised with what's on my computer. 5-second rule. I had breakfast this morning, and not all of the breakfast made it from my hand directly, into my mouth, and it hit the floor. So I'm wondering, first and foremost, do you believe in the 5-second rule? And what are your limitations when it comes to food? And, when it hits the floor, it's like, okay, nope, I'm just going to bypass it. And that goes, into the disposal, or it goes in the garbage or whatever. What are your limitations when it comes to 5-second rule? What foods are your limitations? What immediately goes into the trash? And do you even practice the 5-second rule? Because I certainly do. We still have those tendencies as guys. You sit there and it's like, okay, that hit the floor. Is anybody around? Is anybody watching? No. And so that's 5-second rule. And Nick has an interesting question. Or sorry, who has the content? Michael Valverde with an interesting question this morning. So we'll get into that as well as a part of all of this, because we do have news out of Major League Soccer.
I agree, and I'm excited for that question because that's one that I've been hoping we would really tackle. So yes, we will talk about that.
Yes,
because I would like everybody's opinions on who they will be rooting for, whether it's Team Chaos or someone else.
Yes, and so that's part of the element here. But yes, my own instance involving the 5-second rule was why I wanted to bring in the 5-second rule this morning and find out what your limitations are on the 5-second rule. So there you go. Jarrett, 5-second rule. Yes, no, maybe, because you have a full house. How do you orient?
Okay, I have a 5-year-old. I also have a 5-year-old who goes to an outdoor school and literally spends her entire day outside, quasi preparing for Hunger Games level chaos in her life. I'm very liberal about the 5-second rule, depending on what it is. Because who was it who just said that? Let me go back to your comments. No, Jason said it. Yeah. If it's something like jelly or honey, something that's going to absorb and stick onto anything, yeah, I'm not gonna probably, I'm not gonna, it's gonna be more like a 1-second rule, maybe.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff, man, who cares? That's what you got antibodies for, right?
Yes, exactly. So, like I said, just something had happened getting ready for everything this morning. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll ask about the 5-second rule. So there you go. That's your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Please have the conversation amongst yourself in the comments, and we'll get into it as well all during the show. Bart Keeler joining us in a little bit to talk stuff. That's the official term once again. Kickoffcoffeeco.com. And if you use the QR code right there, you can dive right into all of the good stuff that they do. And you get Soccer Down Here 15 is your code. Get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it in the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Yesterday, Jarrett, we had a firing in Major League Soccer. And I think when you look at what was going on in the Eastern Conference right there in and around the playoff line, and you had game chaos, my gut told me that the loser of Orlando and Columbus would be out of a job because of the lack of getting into the playoffs for one reason or another, and the numbers for Columbus, courtesy of our friends at Opta, were just nuts when you got to look at it. But apparently, Caleb Porter is now looking for a job and a house, probably someplace other than Columbus, Ohio. Caleb Porter out of a job in Columbus.
Well. Okay. Okay. Well, here's the thing. Okay, look. Here's the thing about that. Let me find the stat. Hold on. Let me find the stat.
Yes.
Because I said yesterday, it is the how Columbus missed the playoffs that is the part that is crippling. That is the kneecapped shotgun blast of both knees. The Crew won just half of their matches in which they led entering the 75th minute. 7-6-1 this season. Good God. Also, build upon that. The fact that Caleb Porter isn't the most well-loved coach out there.
True.
He has his people, Darlington Nagbe being one of them, and that goes back to both of them being at Akron when Nagbe was in college. That makes sense. We all have those people who someone else may not like it, but you have this somebody else may not like that person. Or they might have rubbed people the wrong way in the past, but you have a long-standing history with that person, and it transcends, everybody's beef. And Nagbe, I think, has that with Caleb Porter. They're very close. But, man, even the stuff that came out yesterday afternoon where they're like, well, don't look for him in Houston because that relationship ended poorly when the guy in charge of Houston.
Yeah, Onstad, yeah.
Yeah, Onstad. When he was in Columbus, that ended poorly, so don't look for him to go there. I don't know where Caleb Porter goes, man.
And does Darlington Nagbe go with it?
No, I think Nagbe stays where he is.
Yeah,
I think that is home.
Yeah.
That was probably his last huge contract. I think he can get one more big contract, not a huge one. And I think he'll chill out up there.
Yes.
Darlington will be fine. But Caleb, my son.
Yes.
Try not to falcon so hard.
Well, and then the video.
That's what you did.
Yeah. Then you had the video come up from the last time that Pareja and Caleb Porter met on the touchline in a key situation when Porter was in Portland. And you see the post-match handshake. Portland won 3-1, and Caleb Porter reached, Pareja's reaching for Caleb Porter's hand. I think this was back in 2015, I think. Porter's reaching for Pareja's hand. Pareja wants to shake. Caleb Porter takes his lineup card out of his hand
Well,
and just flipped it at
I
him.
think Pareja was like handing him a piece of paper or something. I don't know, man. That was such a weird one. But yeah, Caleb Porter just takes it and throws it in the air. Caleb Porter has very big high school jock villain energy.
Yes. No.
And when he's winning, it works.
Yes.
When he's not winning, the Schadenfreude is at a very toxic level.
Yes. The shushing of opponents in their own building when you go in and win, that's great when you're winning, but when you're average or below average or having a playoff problem, that doesn't fly. You could be Biff Tannen all you want, but until Marty McFly comes and really takes you to school, Biff Tannen works until Marty McFly comes into the picture. And when Biff isn't getting his guys to win, then that's a problem. So yeah, Caleb Porter out of a job. He's the first one on the unemployment line from Major League Soccer coming up.
You hate to see it.
Yes. Emilio says that Porter could move in with Nagby. I'm thinking the movie Guarding Tess with Nick Cage and Shirley MacLaine.
God, I need to even stretch for that kind of reach this morning. God.
Will says Porter's like late 80s, early 90s NWA heel. So let's see who. Oh wow, who could from Georgia Championship Wrestling? Who could Caleb Porter be? That's a good one. I mean, could he be Buff Bagwell from the NWO?
Maybe.
I'm thinking. Oh, so yeah. When Nick says good morning. Who's on the crest this morning for you? Who are you supporting this morning?
This is the
New
Orleans Riverboat Gamblers. The old USL.
Yes. Well done.
That's what we do around here.
Yes, absolutely. And so you broke that one out, and I broke out Team Hawaii, by the way.
There you go.
So
I basically need home field apparel to break into old USL and old NASL.
Yes,
they've done such good work. They're not giving us money. This is not a paid endorsement.
No.
Home field apparel has done such stupid good work with colleges.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for a Kennesaw State line to drop, like an old 1960s Kennesaw State, back when it was a community college.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for that line to drop. But until then, yeah, I mean, I'll just keep finding these old retro shirts if I can, but I need home field to drop a line of just USL, A-League, like just drop some Atlanta Apollo shirts, whatever it takes, man.
Ultras has been the place where I've grabbed the Apollo gear, and it's legit Apollo's logos, not like the knockoff stuff. So Ultras has been my place for Apollo stuff.
Ricky, there will be so much USL NOLA stuff. I am going to I've got to go down and visit my grandmother in Mandeville anyway. That is as good of a reason as any to go down there when they start a game and to go watch USL NOLA.
Yeah. You have shocked a lot of folks on the Twitch pitch with your video perception there, sir.
I like to keep them off balance.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, racked. Not used to seeing a video. Will is in all caps.
No.
I mean,
retro turnover plank, yeah. Man, so the turnover plank is fun to me now because now we're to this point as a society where most of us who are in our 30s, we grew up watching Ed and Eddie when we were in elementary school. So for us, it hits. For the kids that are like 22 now, y'all weren't even born when Ed and Eddie came on the air with planks. So they're probably like, this is cool, but what is this? Or they've had to go back and watch old episodes of Ed and Eddie.
Yes.
But yeah, plank is one of the best things. I'm very glad the Kennesaws kept it going. We'll see if they take it with them to Conference USA. We'll see if they take Brian Bohannon with them to Conference USA.
Yes, the deeper point in all of this, and wasting no time. Yeah, he's 4 minutes early, so we're just going to go ahead and add him.
There you go.
What's the mug, Bart?
Today it just says, but first coffee.
Okay. So he's
beautiful.
Cheers, Jarrett.
Right on.
Cheers, buddy. Good morning.
So, we brought Bart in, and so Bart, before we get into like actual topics, what is your rule on the 5-second rule? Since that was opening kickoff this morning, what is your rule on the 5-second rule?
I think 5 seconds can be extended depending on the surface that it lands on and the type of food that falls.
Okay.
Yeah,
because
that's fine with me.
That was kind of where I was getting into. because of this morning's breakfast accident, and I
Good way to
was
phrase it.
well. I mean, it literally was me going all Wendell Tyler, and that's your Google search. That's your Google search for the morning, kids. When it came to the breakfast blueberry muffin, you take off a section, and then the rest of it just kind of falls away, and you're
Is
going.
this the same kind of blueberry muffin you got from Walmart? Because there was that time a year, man, that was 2 years ago, I think.
The
Because
gaming
I was, yeah, because no, I remember this episode. We were doing the show. I went out to get my second COVID vaccine because I was howling in line and getting looked at like I was crazy because you were talking about like picking up muffins from Walmart. And Mike Conti jumped on the show to tell you don't have to live that way. Nick Levy jumped on the show to tell you didn't have to live that way. Like basically the entire SDH universe had an intervention for you.
Well, it didn't work.
I doubt it. I wouldn't expect.
But how many times have we had food-related interventions with Jon and it just hasn't worked? So,
well, all of them.
Yeah.
Basically. Yes, it was. Yes, it is a gamey muffin callback. Yeah. Yes. Well, no, it wasn't gamey because it was below the expiration date. So, OG, it was not a gamey muffin. We're in good shape. Traditionally,
hey, you know what? When it's expired, just think of that as extra probiotics.
That's yeah. So
yeah, there you go.
It's all good. So, Jarrett and I are here, Bart, to ask questions about the women's national team.
Yeah,
and anything else on your mind, because we must promote the Soccer for Us pod and the Soccer for US pod, however you wish to promote it. Going back to the last match, now that you've had a couple days to look at it, VAR either included or excluded from the conversation. What are
They're still mad about 1776.
True.
Yeah, that was what it was.
Absolutely. So some of your takeaways from the match against the Lionesses, sir.
Well, not only was it England mad at us, but VAR and the referee crew was German, so I don't think they have a lot of things to be happy with us about either. So clearly there was a conspiracy theory.
Yes.
No, I thought actually I was impressed with the way the team responded to adversity during the game. Obviously, having a goal taken away, a pretty legitimate goal taken away, and a goal given to you via a goal given to the other team via a penalty kick that I'm not mad that it got called. Like, had that been called in real time, then yeah, I think using VAR to go look back at that and then also to not use VAR to look at other instances throughout the match was a little fishy. But at the end of the day, I thought it was a really good test for the team that hasn't really been tested in this way. The biggest test we've had since the Olympics last summer was probably going to Australia last November against a team that really isn't the quality that they have been.
It's Sam Kerr and who else?
Exactly.
They're better than most of us will ever dream of being, but
no, you're exactly right. So this is a team in England that is very, very, very good, and I don't think it's unfair to say the best team playing women's international soccer right now. I think that's a fair statement. I mean, especially when you get them at home in front of what was almost 80,000 people, that's a really tough place and a really tough environment. And I thought the team responded well. I thought the first goal was super fluky. I thought Alana Cook defended well. She had it cut off. It just unfortunately didn't bounce or slide or deflect the way that it should have, and goes right to an England player, and Alyssa Nair couldn't respond quick enough. But those are the types of goals that happen in a World Cup that you have to respond to, and we did. We got a goal pretty quick after that. So I thought overall, I can't be mad at how we played. I thought we played pretty well. I thought that the more important thing for me was we learned things about this team that can both be improved upon and things that we can kind of shift away from. For example, I thought for the first time, we really saw the U.S. pressing a team high up the field. Now, we haven't been able to see that because what teams have we played that we've been able to press high up the field?
Can't press teams on the ball.
Yeah, or it was just too easy, or they weren't able to pass the ball with each other anyway. I I thought that that was a really positive thing that I took from this match, is that we are, when we want to, able to press the team high up the field. And I think that we created, I mean, the goal we scored, the Lindsey Horan pressure, slips it to Sophia Smith, and we're in on goal. That was good. I thought that, for the most part, we created a lot of good chances that way. And that was my goal coming into the match, was find a way to score other than just crossing the ball into the box. And we did that on both of our goals, really. I mean, I know the second goal was technically a cross into the box, but that's not the same as like, get it wide and lump it in. Yeah. So I thought that that was a positive. I thought what we also learned, though, was maybe this midfield configuration of Sullivan, Horan, and Lavelle, though I think they might be the three best midfielders you have at their respective positions, don't necessarily complement each other very well. And I think that I would like to see a different midfield this game. I'm not blaming any one player in particular. I think it's just the combination of the three doesn't really work together. You've got Lavelle and Horan, who tend to be a little more positionally unhinged, if you will, and definitely attack-minded. And you've got an Andy Sullivan who, no matter how much we can ask her to, is not going to be the Julie Ertz ability to just kind of close ground whenever needed. So I don't know. I kind of would like to see just either a different formation from a midfield or a different combination of three players today. But overall, I thought that you could look at this game and say, I thought we played pretty well. I know some people look at possession stats and think that we got dominated. I don't think that's what it was at all. I thought that the team, again, played well, responded to adversity well, and at the end of the day, you had positives and negatives that you can improve upon going forward, and you needed that again.
Nix is in this morning, and he's asking, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your Vlatko confidence level? His is not high. The team has fallen off, and more importantly, really the rest of the world, Europe especially, has moved forward significantly. He thinks England, Spain, the Netherlands, and Sweden can all beat us these days.
Spain can't beat us. Spain can't even get past the first round of a knockout tournament. Sorry. Like, I'm tired of the Spain hype crap. Sorry, Jason. I'm going off on not you, but like the entire world. Everyone keeps telling me how great Spain is.
It's not your fault. It's the world's fault.
I know. It's everyone keeps telling me how great Spain is. And granted, we can very much attribute their lack of success to a coach who clearly hasn't created a great culture there and doesn't really know how to get them to win. But how many times, I mean, it took the best assimilation of Spanish men's footballing talent to win a World Cup and a European Cup, right? Or Euro Championship. The way Spain plays soccer is very easily beaten. And the way that the women's team plays is very similar to the way the men's team plays. And I'm not sure. Look, I'm not saying they're a bad team. Like, we played them today. They're a very good team. They have very good players on their team. But I'm sorry, I don't buy the Spain hype. But to the point of your question, I'm at a 7 with Vlatko. I think Vlatko has a tough task on his hand to usher in a brand new generation of players, many of whom hadn't really been part of this team before this. He's losing some very incredibly important players, and you have some players on this team who are unfortunately on the back ends of their careers. I mean, yeah, it's very valid that our defense looks a little disorganized without Becky Sauerbrunn back there. She's a fantastic leader and a fantastic center back. She's also on the wrong side of 35 and not as fast as she used to be, also coming off a knee injury. That is a problem that Vlatko can't fix. I mean, I think that you have Cook and Gurma playing a lot of minutes, and that's good. The other problem is you don't have Tierna Davidson, who was the heir apparent to Sauerbrunn, and you have an Abby Dalcomfer not playing particularly well either right now, and also kind of hurt. So I think he's doing a decent enough job of kind of figuring out that transition period between look, again, I'm going to say it, probably the greatest generation of soccer talent ever. I mean, you made 3 World Cup finals in a row. Name another country that's done that. That is an incredible feat. So, like, of course you're not, like, I'm sorry, not every team, every player is going to be as good as the collection of Heath, Press, Pino, Morgan. It just is the unfortunate reality. But I think he's managing it okay. I think his tactics still I question. I'm wondering where his tactical identity is coming from, because it does seem to be a lot of get it wide and put it into the box. But I'm confident that he'll figure it out, because I think that, again, the players eventually will just figure it out, because they'll continue to get more reps at the international level, get more comfortable playing with each other, and figure out how they can perform best to make this team its best.
So this is a question I've had since 2019, was at what point do you have to bite the bullet and realize that this great generation is running out of steam? And I thought 2019 would be their last hurrah, and they would actually have to start making those changes in 2019. Now they managed to kick the can down the road successfully, won a World Cup, when I didn't think they'd be able to. But it kind of feels like it's kind of fallen on him now, and it kind of feels like we were playing hot potato, and he has been left with the hot potato of an aging roster that is still good but can't get it done. Whereas I thought Jill Ellis would have to be the one holding that hot potato, which she wasn't.
Yeah, I think, and that's exactly it, is you have, again, probably the greatest generation of soccer players to come together from that 2011 to 2019 World Cups. And right now, they're just not as good as they used to be, because Father Time is undefeated, or Mother Time, whatever you want to use.
Father Time and Mother Nature.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, even to the extent of like Kristen Press, obviously is a fantastic player out with a knee injury. Tobin Heath and Julie Ertz probably not ever suiting up for this women's national team ever again. Is just the sad reality. We didn't really bring in new blood quick enough. And I do fault Vlatko a little bit, because you had an opportunity with the delayed Olympics to find new players. However, finding and scouting players during COVID times, not exactly easy. But I do want to go back to kind of what Jason Nick said about the rest of the world catching up. Like, y'all say that like that's a negative, like it's a positive that England, Spain, all these traditionally good countries that aren't Germany and the Scandinavian countries are finally investing in women's football and developing women's football players. I think I said it last time. I think the Women's Super League is probably the best overall league. I would put NWSL up there as well. But, you look at a lot of these women who played on the English national team playing in England for very, very good teams. That's the positive. And I don't think it's a bad thing that the rest of the more developed, quote, footballing world is starting to catch up to what the U.S. had done, because it was a little bit weird that we were dominant as you were for those 12 years in a row.
So, and sorry, John.
No, you're good.
So you bring up a player who is kind of an enigma for me, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is opinion based, Kristen Press in any other generation is your anchor, and she just had the misfortune of existing in the wrong generation for the national team. Like, she existed in a generation of young Sydney Leroux, when Sydney Leroux was the super sub to end all super subs, and Alex Morgan, the tail end of Abby Wambach. She picked the worst time to be a U.S. national team striker. So I feel like Kristen Press would have been that player any other generation, including this one. If she was 24 years old now, oh my God.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, because I also think she could be really influential on this team right now had she not gotten hurt, because of her overall quality on the ball and her way to see the game from more than just a get the ball and go fast type of thing, which I do fault a little bit. Sophia Smith and Mal Pugh, they're a little bit get the ball, go fast type players, which is fine. They're really effective at that. But, Press was the best of speed plus the Pino type of, technical player, able to beat a player 1v1 with skill, but also get by them with speed and get them behind a defense. And I still think she would have been really effective on this team had she been healthy. Yeah, man, Kristen Press was. It's so funny because then she was behind Pino, she's behind Tobin Heath, she's behind Alex Morgan, she's behind all these top level players, but she herself is a top level player.
It's like Steve Young with Joe Montana.
Yeah.
You're waiting for that moment for Steve
Yeah.
Young forever and forever and forever and
Yeah.
forever. You were waiting for that opportunity.
A little bit, yeah.
When it comes to Spain, this has been a situation that I know a lot of folks have been kind of getting the greatest hits on. For those that don't know what's been going on with the Spanish national team coming into this match today, there's going to be a lot of subtext and subplot that's attached to it. Break it down for folks that don't know what in the wide world of sports is going on over there right now.
So the best thing I can say is Spain is also dealing with a little bit of their own
madness,
believe women type of movement, right? Whereas the U.S. is dealing with it from a very sexual predator nature. Spain is dealing with it from a coach and a federation that is not truly supporting the women's national team the way it needs to be supported. You know, the coach Villalba is Vilda, sorry, wrong coach, has been accused basically of creating a toxic environment within the team, being mentally and emotionally. I'm not going to go as far as say as abusive, because I don't know if that word was necessarily used, but definitely harmful toward players. And a lot of the players, 15 particularly, who are top quality players for the Spanish women's national team, have said that they're not playing for him anymore, basically. The Spanish Federation has responded by saying, y'all don't run this federation. Y'all don't get to pick the coach. Deal with it. And, you know, there are going to be players on this team that, for lack of a better word, are going to be scabs. And I don't blame them, because they're also looking for a chance to better their career. And therein lies the problem right now with women's soccer, unfortunately, is that there's still, it's still underfunded. Players are still underpaid. And when you have an opportunity to play for the Spanish women's national team, you're going to take it because it's money in your pocket and it's a chance to further your career. So the subtext is that Spain is dealing with a coach in Jorge Vilda that is not well liked by the team, very well liked by the federation, because he's the son of president or former president. And it kind of feels for the women that they don't really have a voice other than to say we're not playing. And it's unfortunate because, as I said, I think Spain is a great collection of women's soccer players. They have some fantastic players. Alexis Putellas, who obviously is still dealing with a knee injury, but like she's there's a reason she's considered the best soccer player in the world. She is. It sucks that this matchup, which could have been two very important tests for this team, the U.S. women's team, both England and Spain, has now kind of turned into another of the, well, is this really a true test for this team? Kind of a weak opponent. And all I'll say to kind of sum up is that federations have to understand that you have to treat the women's program like you would the men's program. And if you had what you believe to be one of the best teams in the world, I don't think that's unfair. But Spain has not won a knockout round match at a major tournament, Euro or World Cup. They've done it twice in a row where they've gone out in the first round of the knockouts under Vilda. And I think if this were the Spanish national team, the men's national team, he would have been fired, regardless of if he was making people happy, like physically and emotionally happy to come into camp. If he just wasn't getting the results that were expected. And the fact that he continues to be employed is probably really frustrating for the players, because it's not only that they're not being treated well, they're not succeeding, and in their minds, they look at the coach and say, you're the one who's been the constant here.
So legitimately, what kind of a match are you expecting today? And what kind of work are you anticipating the women's national team, meaning the U.S. women's national team, getting done in an environment where Paul Kennedy had the number? Hang on just a second. Of the 11 players who started against eventual champion England at Euro 2022, just 4, 3 from Real Madrid, Carmona, Abellera, and Gonzalez, and 1 from Atletico Madrid, Marta Cardona, are among the players in Vilda's 23-player squad for Tuesday's game. Putelis and Jenny Hermoso sidelined with knee injuries. Legitimately, what kind of a workshop are you looking at for the U.S. team today in this environment against the Spanish side that you have no earthly idea what you're going to get talent-wise?
Well, I think you know what you're going to get from a style of play-wise, right? We know how Spain is going to try to play soccer, and they're going to try to possess the ball. They're going to try to cut you by 1,000. What is it? Death by 1,000 cuts, right?
Yeah.
They still very much play that way. They're very technical, and they're very good at passing the ball and moving defenses with the ball. So if I want to go back to what I again said was a very big positive was our press, and I think this is another opportunity to apply high pressure against the Spain team that's going to want to possess the ball, because again, we just haven't had a whole lot of opportunities against teams to do that. So I would like to continue for us to see improvement or work in the press. I'd also like to see, I think Ashley Sanchez would do really well in this game. High motor player, both very technically gifted, but also loves to play at a quick tempo. And I think that would be a great way to break down the Spain team. I think that sometimes one of the positives I have of Lindsay Horan is that she does kind of, the game comes at like 0.5 speed to her. But that's also a negative because sometimes she plays at 5 speed.
Yeah.
So Sanchez being able to get the ball and create those transition moments a lot quicker, I think would be a fun thing to see. I also think she does a little bit more defensive work than Horan, which will be needed in a game like this. Again, Spain's going to pass the ball in tight spaces, pass the ball in medium passes as well. They're not going to go long as much, but they are going to try to find ways to open you up and find players who are open outside of the cluster that they've created through their passing. So I think for Sanchez, this would be a good game for her. I'd also like to see maybe a little bit more if Sam Coffey can go. That'll be interesting. Again, I don't know if I necessarily think that Sullivan was bad last game. I just think it's more she doesn't work well with the 2 players who are in front of her. So maybe Sam Coffey gets a run out, or maybe it's Sullivan with Sanchez and Lavelle to test that a little bit more if that midfield is what works in the future. The other question we have today is who's going to play left back. Emily Fox is out with concussion. She's in concussion protocol. And that, I know we saw Haley Mace. We also saw Crystal Dunn last game. We brought in Carson Pickett to replace Fox. Pickett played earlier this year as well, and many people think she's a better left back than any of the 3 that has been brought up. So I'm interested to see who plays at left back and how long. I kind of would like to see Crystal Dunn not play left back and actually play in the midfield where she's good at. Not to say that she's not good at left back, but her talents lie in the midfield, and maybe that would be fun to see as you have Lavelle, Dunn, and Sullivan in the midfield instead of Sanchez. That might be interesting. But the big question today is just that left back position for the U.S. because we don't know quite who's going to be playing there. Haley Mace hasn't looked great in that left back position. That's not necessarily all her fault because that's not her most natural position. She plays that for Louisville. She also plays left wing back. She also plays right back. She plays right wing back. She plays left mid. She plays right midfield. Like she plays everywhere on the field for Louisville. So versatility is good, but sometimes having an actual home is nice to have as well. It would be nice to see though to have a left back performance that makes you go, oh yeah, there she is.
Yeah. When I looked at the Soccer America ratings for England and USA, it reminded me of when I vote for Emmy submissions. I mean, legitimately, you've got 3s, 4s, and 5s, except for Sophia Smith, who got a 6. I mean, here's what you got. Nair had a 5. Sophia Huerta on defense. Sophia Huerta had a 5. Alana Cook had a 3. Naomi Sherman
Cook had a bad game.
Emily Fox got a no rating because of the obvious issue. In the midfield, Andy Sullivan a 4. And to your point on Sullivan, the quote, Sullivan left isolated by Lavelle and Horan in transition moments, forced to cover too much ground.
Yeah.
Horan and Lavelle got 5s. Forwards, Rodman got a 5. Sophia Smith got a 6. Megan Rapinoe got a 4. Subs with subsequent minutes, with substantial minutes, Haley Mace had a 4. Sam Coffey, Crystal Dunn had 5s. Sauerbrunn, Sanchez, and Alyssa Thompson, because they only played less than 10 minutes, got incomplete. Is that too harsh? I always think that Soccer America sometimes comes down on the line of too harsh.
Yeah, I would argue that some of those are a little too harsh. But I also don't think Alana Cook played a very good game. We mentioned the goal that we conceded. The first was really her fault. She also had a lot of other moments that she did not look very good. And that was concerning because Alana Cook is supposed to be, I know she hasn't really played a whole lot for the US before this, but she is a very experienced player. She has experience playing in Europe against a lot of these players that she played against England. So from that standpoint, yeah, I was disappointed with the way that Alana Cook played in what was to this point our biggest test. Full offense to Canada, you're just not that good as you are to England. Always full offense to Canada.
Right. Rack, Crystal Dunn's one of the most underappreciated greats of this great generation.
She really is. And I think from a U.S. perspective, we didn't get to see her greatness because she was stuck at left back. But I think that's also a testament because you think of this U.S. team and they were defensively dominant as much as they were attacking skilled, right? Like, I mean, this defensive team did not give up a lot of goals, and Crystal Dunn was such a vital point of contention for the defense. She was able to win most of her battles 1v1, but also be very influential in the attack, and she allowed us to play a lot of different formations as well, both obviously the standard 4-3-3, but she could shift out wide and help us move into like a 5-2-3-1, whatever she was very fluid in her positioning, but also able to cover her defensive responsibilities. But her talents lie in the midfield, and I would like to see that finally.
Will, it's funny that we're so gifted at female striker while we're so barren at male. What do you think?
I mean, I think we're gifted at every female player. We just have better players on the women's side. I mean, we also have better center backs on the women's side than we do the men's side. Maybe our midfield is better on the men's side. Like a Tyler Adams type midfielder would be great for this women's national team. But like, even as great as we have, I don't think any of our men's midfielders stack up against Rose Lavelle. No. I mean, so I don't know. Maybe Christian Pulisic is the best that you can offer, but even then, it's like I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It's hard to compare because we were talking about the number one team in the world versus a team that's struggling to break the top 15. So
right. Are you first off? I'm not kicking you out, but are you back tomorrow for a postmortem?
I can do that tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll see you at 9:30 tomorrow. Philosophical question here. Rack and some other folks have been discussing the women's game on the professional side. And my question for you is somewhat NWSL / Women's Super League based. How do we prevent the exodus that we've seen in years past? Issues from the NWSL aside, because that in and of itself is something that we spent 40 minutes on last time you were here, and we probably could spend another 40 minutes on considering most recent developments.
Mm-hmm.
How do we prevent the exodus that has been ongoing over, pick your period of time, and keep players at home to build the NWSL? How do we do that?
Well, you pay them more. Yeah, the simple answer is you pay them more because the reason they're having to go overseas is to continue to get money, right? They're going to Women's Super League. A lot of them go to Australia or other leagues in Europe to collect a paycheck. So if you pay them a little bit more, where they don't have to go elsewhere in their off season, you just have a better opportunity here for them to succeed in NWSL. I also don't think it's necessarily something that's holding NWSL back, that players in their off seasons go to other leagues. Problem sometimes comes from, like, obviously they're not back to join their NWSL club until the Women's Super League season ends, which again, Arsenal top of the league. So, pick an English football league and Arsenal's top of it.
This year.
Always, John, always. But hey, Arsenal women are the most successful women's football club in England. So that's all I'll say. It just comes down to paying them a little bit more so that they don't have to find those opportunities abroad. There should be enough. Going back to a point we had earlier, or I made last week, of there's an opportunity for investors to put their money into this particular sport, women's soccer, and in particular NWSL. You're looking at Merritt Paulson possibly being removed from Portland. The pressure is on him. You're looking at possibly a new owner in Chicago.
Whistler, yeah.
I don't think Louisville will get to that point. I think maybe North Carolina should as well, because I think the malpractice there of hiring Paul Riley was insane. But we're definitely looking at 2 possible new owners that could put some cash into the league. We're also looking at the possibility of people buying into clubs to just boost the money that's there. So you need some investment there. You need some corporate partners as well. We've talked about Budweiser. It's been kind of pressuring NWSL to clean up its act.
Alaska Airlines.
They're essentially out at Portland. They're kind of like, whoa now.
And the fact that they've redirected to help the actual player.
Yeah.
By Alaska Airlines.
I appreciate Alaska Airlines using their money to do something that would affect positive change and not just keep the status quo because it benefits them. I think I saw someone mention in the chat, like, we need better crowds. I absolutely agree. I think there's a lot of ways to get better crowds. But also NWSL is relatively young. They're only at like year 10. So thinking about how MLS took forever to build crowds, it is going to take time. But you are seeing several clubs with very good crowds, right? You have good crowds in Seattle, but you have great crowds in Portland, in San Diego, in LA. But then you also look at like North Carolina and Orlando and Houston with just not very good crowds at all. You've got to figure out a way to fix that. But at the same time, you look at Kansas City breaking ground on an entirely women's soccer specific stadium, where they have a soccer specific stadium literally right across the river, where they're building one in Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas, so that is a positive as well. I think it's going to take time because, similar to MLS, the soccer infrastructure in the United States, the professional soccer infrastructure in the United States, is still so far behind anywhere else, right? When you look at the Women's Super League, the reason why it's been able to, in my opinion, become the best women's football league in the world is because you have a lot of really well-run clubs, football clubs, top to bottom in that country, who are able to now invest time, assets, intelligence into their women's side of things. And they've been doing that. You're looking at clubs in Spain starting to do this, with Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid actually investing money. You have in France multiple clubs that are getting good investment and also being able to be bolstered by what you've learned from running a men's club for so long. So we don't really have that in the US because we just don't have that professional soccer infrastructure. Again, we want to talk, it ties into, I'm sorry, I'm going to open up this can of worms. It ties in a little bit to the pro-rel argument when everyone wants to talk pro-rel. And it's just like, that sounds great in theory, but our professional structure is just not there yet. So we have USL opening up, they have their W League, which is continuing to improve and become more and more professional each year. You have other lower leagues that are semi-pro to amateur, but becoming a little bit more organized and more professionally run. Those are all positives, and that will make NWSL better, and it will make more people care about NWSL. But y'all, the ratings for NWSL are great. Like, that's the thing, is like, you want to talk about fans in the stands, and that's good. You want people to come to the games, but people are watching consistently. They're watching when it's on CBS Sports or when it's on CBS. That, and John, I think you would agree, especially when we talk about MLS stuff. The gate revenue is great. Like, you want to have people come to your game. It would be great that we would have 10,000 plus fans at every NWSL game. That would obviously bring in money locally to the teams. But overall, from a league standpoint, having great TV ratings is probably more important. And they obviously just recently signed a deal with CBS and Paramount Plus, but to be able to continue to get more money from your TV deal is going to be more important than getting people to actually physically attend the games. But as you continue to get better and more prominent on TV, I think more people will start coming to the games more. But it just comes down to you've got to continue to build the momentum you have, and attendance is improving every year as the league progresses.
And I give CBS full credit for not just having the games on Paramount Plus, but for the investment on CBS Sports Network and for putting them on big CBS, specifically the championship game, and using it as lead-ins occasionally for other product on CBS Network. I give CBS a boatload of credit for doing those kinds of things. And this is something that I have maintained since literally we've come on the air 6 years ago, is that if you have money and you are looking for a growth industry to invest in, then it is soccer. It is men's soccer. It is women's soccer, what have you. And I mean, and I will use Tormenta as my example because of what we've seen from South Georgia Tormenta with the Van Tassels in USL League One and investing in their W League team on the USL side of things. What happened in its first season because they invested? They end up with a star on their chest.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks a lot to what the Van Tassels have seen, what Tormenta as an organization have known, and understanding the larger picture of doing something three-dimensionally. And now you want to talk about growth. It's their own soccer facility. It is their standalone stadium with everything else that's attached that we've seen when it comes to growth in USL League One properties and things like that. I would posit that if you're looking for a growth industry, and you've got money to do it, you invest in soccer, and you should be able to see the kind of return. Obviously, it's not going to be instantaneous or anything, but I think that as a growth industry, that's the place to go.
Yeah, I know there's questions about scheduling and TV stuff. So to quickly hit on that, Rack, you have on this weekend, you have the first round of NWSL playoffs. One is on Paramount Plus, one is on CBS Sports Network.
Mm-hmm.
So I know not everyone has CBS Sports Network. I use YouTube TV, and it's on there. I obviously also subscribe to Paramount Plus, and the reason I started subscribing to Paramount Plus was because of the NWSL. And then they said, "Hey, we get Champions League," and that was even better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is an example of why there's growth opportunity. There's ways to get your money, invest your money, see a great return. But also, we don't just want people who are going to try to get money out of the club. We want people who are invested and willing to grow the sport. And I think this is kind of a societal thing where we see more women earning their own multi-million billionaire statuses, right? I'm hoping that we see them, and it doesn't have to be women, but I'm just saying that this is a positive trend of you seeing more women joining the billionaire status. Hopefully we see them start investing in their sports teams as men have traditionally, invested in men's sports. So you have a lot of owners in this league who are women, not enough, right? It's a women's football league. You should expect more women ownership. You should expect more women's leadership in it. Obviously, it's good that the overall leader of the league is a female, but we just more female coaches, more female executives. Those things are needed, but I think that comes with time. Unfortunately, it's also not the easy solution, as we just saw with Orlando's, situation.
Mm-hmm.
Bad people are bad people. It doesn't matter their gender,
right?
Unfortunately, but I think that will ultimately continue to help the league grow. We need more Michelle Kangs and fewer Merritt Paulsons.
Amen. What are your viewing habits today? What are you going to be doing as you're watching the match?
Well, unfortunately, I have a work meeting at 2:30 this afternoon. So I will be. I'm hoping that it's canceled. We'll see. I might put that in our chat. So are we meeting today or no? Because who knows who on my team is actually working today.
Uh-huh.
But as soon as that is over, I'll be watching that game. Obviously, we have the Braves starting at 1. So if you want to go down to Fido
Never
And
heard.
yeah, if you want to go down to Fido, watch with AO Atlanta. We'll have obviously the Braves game on at 1, the women's game on at 2:30. And we'll have a few people there watching both. Obviously, both are very important, so I get it. But I unfortunately will be stuck at home having to watch on this TV behind me while I work, because that's just what my life is like today.
Yeah,
They didn't ask me when they scheduled these friendlies.
It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
At Bartimus Prime 19 at SoccerForUS POD. Bart, we will catch up with you tomorrow to get your postmortems on Braves and on the match and anything else on your mind, because we got plenty to talk about.
Well, we'll talk about women's national team. We can talk a little bit Atlanta United as well tomorrow, because I think I have an opinion on what needs to be fixed.
I know you have an opinion on what needs
But yeah, I mean, so I'll reiterate again, though, today. NWSL is on CBS Sports Network this weekend. So if you have the chance, go watch it. Yeah, Atlanta United Press are going on now, so I'm going to try to catch that on YouTube later.
Yep.
But the best way to make the women's game grow in the United States is to watch it when it's on TV, watch it when it's on Paramount Plus. I'm sure everyone here subscribes to Paramount Plus for UEFA Champions League, Europa League, Europa Conference League,
Serie A,
Argentina. Yeah. So the NWSL is also on there, and give that a watch. You'll learn a lot more about the game as a whole, and it's a good way to support NWSL and by proxy the U.S. Women's National Team. So
what he said. So Bart, go work so you don't have to work starting at 1:00.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I worked really late last night, so maybe not intentionally, but just like kind of got my ADD follow the serotonin. You know,
you kind of stacked your hours. You front loaded your hours.
It's
like, look, I front loaded all my hours this week. I stayed up last night to do so I don't have to invest as much today because I front loaded them yesterday.
Right. And now I'm gonna be in the office tomorrow, so I'll be like, oh, but I was in the office this week. So
exactly right. All right, but we'll catch up with you tomorrow.
Y'all be good.
Bart Keeler. So he's off and running. And so what that means is that since we are approaching the hour mark of the show, that it's time to read a promo. So that means that I could try to find the music, which will once again be at 50% and once again be looped, which is not something that we want. So once again, adjusting background music to an acceptable level. Time to read the halftime promo. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminize Service. Eliminize Service QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Eliminize deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Eliminize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize Service to eliminate all bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process, makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment, we like that. Offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard, you take out that masking agent and you spray it in the air. There's a reason they call it a masking agent, because all you're doing is masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule like our friends at the Eliminize Service do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing very, very easy. One of two ways, either buy the cubic foot or parts per million to come up with a price that is affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions frequently asked or otherwise, go to the website. And this is where I grab my pen. Eliminize.com, but do us a favor after the .com. Go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from. So your full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, Eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. Rack the Presser is self-contained right now. It is happening on campus with Gonzalo Pineda and with Carlos Bocanegra. So when that is over, it will be turned onto, as Bart said, Atlanta United's social media channels. Probably on the YouTube channel a little later this morning or early this afternoon once everything is digested, edited, filed, and shipped. So keep an eye on the press conference with Gonzalo Pineda and Carlos Bocanegra that is going on right now at, I assume, the Children's Health Care of Atlanta training ground. So that is we'll have the word from that as we continue to talk about that tomorrow. Bart said he's got ideas and he's got stuff he wants to talk about, which is perfectly fine. And once again, we'll open it up to whatever you guys want to talk about then tomorrow on the show after the press conference has been posted. And so we'll keep an eye on all of that stuff. So we've got news of the day, and we've got all of the other stuff. We briefly mentioned what's been going on in Orlando, and we can get into that. And what happened with Orlando yesterday is that the NWSL announced the results of their investigation into allegations of misconduct within the Orlando Pride organization. And this is coming from the league yesterday. For background, this is once again from the league. In October 2021, the NWSL and the Players Association launched an investigation into allegations of workplace misconduct toward NWSL players by individuals in positions of power, as well as systemic issues in the league that impact the prevention, detection, and handling of misconduct. The League and Players Association, working together through experienced counsel, jointly conducted an objective, fair, and trauma-informed investigation. Independent investigators referred to as the NWSL/PA Joint Investigative Team. In March, with the consent of the JIT, counsel to the Orlando Pride investigated allegations of verbal abuse and improper favoritism toward players by Orlando Pride head coach Amanda Cromwell, and allegations of improper favoritism towards players by first assistant coach Sam Green. Some of the allegations were substantiated. As a result of the conclusion of the investigation, both Cromwell and Green received written warnings. Cromwell was informed she would be required to participate in leadership training. In May, the JIT, Joint Investigative Team, received reports Cromwell and Green were engaging in retaliatory conduct toward players who they believed had initiated, participated in, and were supportive of the March investigation. Based on a thorough investigation conducted by that Joint Investigative Team, allegations were substantiated. Found that Cromwell and Green engaged in retaliation and attempted retaliation against Pride players whom Cromwell and Green believed had made or supported earlier misconduct allegations against them in violation of league policy. Specifically, Cromwell and Green were found to have engaged in conduct that discouraged reporting and fostered a general fear of retaliation, and to have taken negative actions against certain players, including by seeking to waive or trade them. The Joint Investigative Team further found that goalkeeper coach Eileen Reese did not fully cooperate with the investigation in violation of league policy, including by pressuring players to share favorable information with investigators. The findings were reported to NWSL Commissioner Jessica Berman, PA Executive Director Megan Birkin, Pride Ownership. In June, Cromwell, Green, Reese, and assistant coach Michelle Akers raised complaints that they were subjected to various forms of misconduct. The league, through a third-party investigator, conducted an investigation independent from the joint investigation. So we have a second investigation similar, in a similar vein. You had two investigations going on in Orlando at the same time. The second one happening after the first two rounds of the first one. After a thorough investigation into the coach's complaints, the third-party investigator found the coach's complaints that they were subjected to misconduct in violation of league policy were unsubstantiated. Based on the findings described above, the league has imposed the following discipline. Cromwell and Green's employment contracts terminated effectively, ineligible to work in the NWSL in any capacity unless or until approved by the commissioner. In order to be eligible for future employment in the NWSL, Cromwell and Green must participate in mandatory training regarding retaliation, discrimination, harassment, and bullying, and must participate in mandatory executive coaching as determined by the commissioner and at the league's expense. Cromwell and Green may apply to the commissioner for consideration only after they've completed the mandatory training and coaching, acknowledged wrongdoing, demonstrated a sincere commitment to modifying their behavior. Reese is placed on unpaid administrative leave effective immediately, required to participate in mandatory training regarding retaliation, discrimination, harassment, and bullying, has to participate in mandatory executive coaching as determined by the commissioner and at the league's expense. Reese may not return to work until she's completed the training, acknowledged wrongdoing, demonstrated a sincere commitment to modifying her behavior. The league is also mandating additional training regarding retaliation, discrimination, harassment, and bullying for the entire Orlando Pride organization to establish and ensure everyone is on notice of the league's expectations for appropriate conduct behavior within the NWSL. Orlando then came out with their own statement and I want to read it, provided I could type. And their statement from Mark Wilf that came out that afternoon, came out at 4:30 yesterday afternoon. Organization received a review of the findings regarding retaliatory conduct toward Pride players and supports the actions taken by the NWSL. The club is dedicated to providing a safe, inclusive, respectful environment. We apologize to our players who may have experienced otherwise, committed to learning from this process as we continue to build and grow the Pride into the premier organization our players and fans deserve. Step in that process will be implementing anti-retaliation training for all Pride staff members on both soccer operations side and in the front office. Then another couple of paragraphs. Then Amanda Cromwell came out with her own statement, and suffice to say, she was not pleased with the findings. She says, saddened and disappointed by the results of the investigation. I believe, and this is Amanda Cromwell, I believe the investigation lacked transparency, professionalism, and thoroughness, and as a result, my character and integrity have been mischaracterized. Pride coaching staff, GM, board of directors made a personnel decision to waive a player based on performance and conduct that was detrimental to the team culture. Upon my hiring, I was asked to correct the culture from previous years. Conversations regarding team's performance and culture were discussed weekly with the board, and this particular decision, which was made to protect the players, was approved by the staff, GM, and board. I was placed on administrative leave for the integrity of the resulting investigation after it was alleged that my actions were retaliatory. Throughout this process, I've remained silent as I fully cooperated with a biased and incomplete investigation in an effort to clear my name and protect the reputation I built as both a professional player and a coach for nearly 40 years. There's no doubt there's been a culture of abuse in the NWSL. I acknowledge the importance of due process and the need for NWSL to investigate all claims. However, the abusive behavior in the NWSL goes beyond just the players. All of the women on my coaching staff have raised serious concerns about the work environment, and I will be reviewing all legal options. So that was, so that's what you got out of Orlando yesterday. And so Cromwell came out swinging on her socials. Akers mentioned on her allegations against the league she was not in the group punished. That is true. That is correct. Cromwell said she's suing the NWSL back in her statements, not that she had many other options. So it is interesting. Once again, yet another franchise in the NWSL. And I want to go to something that Stephen Bank wrote yesterday on the subject as he was looking at it. And Stephen Bank, who is a UCLA law professor, and in these kinds of situations, I would recommend that you follow him for his input in these kinds of things. Most of the stuff he does is sports law, business law. So Stephen Bank, when he read the allegations, he says, this is the key to understanding the actions the NWSL took today. The terminations were for the retaliation, not for the original charges of verbal abuse and favoritism. You simply can't change the culture of the league if whistleblowing is still a danger to one's career. And then back in 2018, he linked to a piece that he wrote about enabling. He says he wrote about enabling and protecting whistleblowers in the context of the FIFA corruption scandal. It has to be the first step in any full organizational reform. So, it was once again, you get another franchise in the NWSL, and the news came out of Orlando, trying to see if there was anything else. NWSLPA commends the Pride players who came forward, said in a statement. Potential path back to coaching, once again, it can be reinstated by the discretion of the commissioner, Jessica Berman, in the NWSL. Meg Linehan at the Athletic assistant coach, and Rack, this is to your point. Assistant coach Michelle Akers not named in the investigation, but she, along with Reese and Green, were all part of Cromwell's coaching staff that joined her when she took the role. During the investigation process, once again, this is from the Athletic, Cromwell, Green, Reese, and Akers made counterclaims they had experienced misconduct themselves, including gender-based discrimination, offensive comments concerning sexual orientation, and other behaviors. It was not specified in the NWSL release if the coaching staff was making reports concerning the players or the club's front office staff. These were independently investigated outside of the NWSL/PA joint investigation, claims not substantiated by the third-party investigators. Seb Hines has been named the Pride's interim head coach as of June. Club has not yet provided a timeline on finding a new permanent hire ahead of the 2023 season. Last Wednesday, according to the Athletic, Pride GM Ian Fleming said the ongoing investigation had prevented the team from making any coaching decisions. Mark Wolf said a process to identify a leader that will embody the values of our organization, bring a competitive roster to the field, and most importantly, protect and advocate for our players. That's what they're looking for. And that came out in his statement on Monday. So that's the latest out of the NWSL. And with what we saw out of the Orlando situation, Chicago Red Stars, the players came out yesterday and they had made their thoughts known, and it was in a couple of you had Alyssa Nair as you had a couple of players that had sent out the same statement, the players of the Chicago Red Stars, through their social media yesterday afternoon. And this, just looking up Alyssa Nair's account. Red Stars, we the players, incredibly sad and infuriated, appalled by the reprehensible findings of the Sally Yates report. First, want to recognize the courageous individuals who bore the weight of sharing their trauma throughout the investigation. Also imperative to acknowledge the countless current and former Red Stars who suffered verbal and emotional abuse at the hands of Rory Dames and the organization. Though it's disheartening that it took a formal investigation to uncover the abuse that numerous players had been experiencing and voicing in our league, we were relieved to finally see the truth exposed. After the departure of Dames, Arnim Whistler assured us he was shocked to hear the allegations against Dames, claiming he had no knowledge of the environment Dames cultivated at the club. While we were dubious about Whistler's assertion, it wasn't until the report was released that the extent of his dishonesty came clear. Once again, this is from a release from the players of the Red Stars. We are united with the board of directors in their decision to remove Whistler from the organization entirely. Look forward to finding a new majority owner who can help us realize the full potential that we as players always knew existed for the club. We have confidence in our board's ability to move this club in a direction that's mutually beneficial to players, investors, and our fans. Many steps that need to be taken, not only in our organization, but in this league to provide a protected and supportive environment in which players can thrive. Hope that the ongoing NWSL and PA joint investigation will reveal the remaining issues requiring attention as we develop a safer league. The team has endured serious hardships over the years. Finally, our time to implement the changes for which we've tirelessly pushed. We are committed to building a future in which players and staff alike can experience the joy and success at our club. And then they thank the fans. They'll continue to fight to strengthen the team and the club. So, united with the board of directors. So the players are united with the board of directors in removing Arnim Whistler from the organization entirely and find a new majority owner. So that came out yesterday from players of the came out from the Chicago Red Stars. And also, if you are a subscriber to the Athletic, they have now constructed a timeline of all of the events of everything that we've been discussing when it comes to the NWSL. So that is I guess that's your live timeline from now on when it comes to everything going on in the NWSL. So prior to the move from the Red Stars board of directors last week, Whistler announced he'd stepped down from the league's board of governors, had given operational control of the club to the Red Stars executive team. And so we will see what that means and how much time or how much longer Arnim Whistler will be involved with the Chicago Red Stars. So that's part and parcel of your news out of the NWSL. And let's see, going into Kylian Mbappe. Let's get into that this morning before we go. Rack, that's the question. How long is it cleaned up? How long is it going to take before it's cleaned up? Finally get to a place where the NWSL can make headlines for something other than this stuff? It's going to take a while, sadly. Really going to take a while. And that's the disappointing part. But, you got to give the players and everybody who wants to make a change full credit for putting their head down and wanting to make a change and be vigilant about it. According to a bunch of different sources, Kylian Mbappe's relationship with PSG has broken down and he wants to leave the club in the January window, sources have told ESPN. So after signing a new deal, Kylian Mbappe now wants out at PSG. So we'll see what happens there. But let let's see. Going into from Mario Cortegana. So Cortegana is writes for Real Madrid from Marca, and he is also attached to Radio Marca and a couple of other places. So from Cortegana, the PSG board is willing to sell Kylian Mbappe, but only to Liverpool. Keep an eye on that. Relationship with Real Madrid's very bad. Qatar is not willing to sell one of its top figures to Florentino Perez's club. So we'll keep an eye on Kylian Mbappe and his future. So we'll see what happens there with Mbappe and everything going on with the drama of PSG. Figured the drama would happen sooner or later, just not this sooner. All right, so news of the day. Once again, the press conference is going on right now with Gonzalo Pineda and Carlos Bocanegra. We'll have highlights of that tomorrow. Bart Keeler once again joining us at 9:30 tomorrow for the post-mortem for the U.S. and Spain, the women's national team in Spain. And then obviously he has thoughts about Atlanta United. So I'm guessing once the audio and video from the press conference has been released in whatever forms, then we will get Bart's comments and obviously yours as well. I mean, it's basically open phones, heading toward the playoffs. We'll talk about the playoffs. We'll catch up with as many folks as, we can get our hands on to discuss things, and we ain't going nowhere. So that's basically that's our timeline, is that we got stuff to talk about because the season will be back before you know it, and training camp will be back before you know it too. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joel Matip to miss Rangers and Man City. They're out 2 weeks because of injuries. Luis Diaz is out until after the World Cup. So bad news for Liverpool on a couple of different fronts. Diaz expected to be out with the knee injury that he sustained in the loss to Arsenal. Underwent a scan after the match, revealed no surgery will be necessary. Thankfully, if you're a Liverpool fan, all three obviously unavailable as City comes to Anfield on Sunday. Diaz offered a threat in the first half in their match against Arsenal. So Alexander-Arnold later taken off with an ankle injury sustained after he was caught by Martinelli as Martinelli delivered a cross, and Matip has a calf injury. So that's the news there. The FA is looking into the Gabriel Jordan Henderson altercation. Both players asked for their observations by referee Michael Oliver after Arsenal beat Liverpool. So after they got together, Michael Oliver's report is going to be reviewed as well. Both spoken to after the match by Oliver, who asked for their observations of the incident in keeping with FA and PGMOL protocols. The first stage of any potential disciplinary process. FA didn't want to say much about the matter. Remains to be seen whether or not a full-scale investigation will be going on into this. Initial inquiries likely to take a couple of days. Normal for the FA to seek eyewitness accounts from all the players and support staff who were involved within earshot. Also very likely the FA will employ a lip reader. This is from our friends at Sky to work alongside them as officials review all of the TV footage available. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Also on the board this morning, people are asking Harry Kane about Bayern, and Harry Kane, his contract runs out in the summer 2024. He says he's focused on Spurs, trying to do my best for us. For sure, Bayern are a top club, but all my concentration's on Tottenham and trying to win tomorrow night. Bayern publicly declared their interest for Kane after the German club's chief exec Oliver Kahn revealed in July that it would be a, quote, dream to sign the England captain. Looking for a permanent replacement for Lewandowski in the $42.5 million deal this past summer. Getting into lower divisions, Middlesbrough's going to talk to Michael Carrick over their vacant managerial position. Serena Wiegman says she hasn't signed a new deal yet, but has had good conversations with the FA about her future. And Nottingham Forest yesterday 1-1 draw with Aston Villa, and a lot of folks think that match probably set the Premier League back a good decade. Listening to it on TalkSport yesterday, it was just dreadful. The play-by-play and the color guy wish that they could have been pretty much at any other Premier League match but that one, but that was Monday Night Football, the 1-1 draw. The Independent this morning. Newcastle retains an interest in James Maddison and Bayer Leverkusen's Moussa Diaby. Gabriel Martinelli, according to the Sunday Times, says he wants to commit to a new long-term contract at Arsenal. And you've also got, as we skip the four-letter paper, David De Gea, the Daily Mirror, admits he wants to remain at Manchester United for more years as a decision on his future looms. Romeo Beckham set to make his debut in English professional football, training with Brentford B, who are going to meet Crewe in a behind closed doors match on Saturday. Thiago Silva's told Chelsea they're approaching crunch time and talks about his new contract. Wolves chief Jeff Shee is in Julian Lopetegui's native Spain to try to persuade him to finally come to the Molineux. West Brom looking at former Huddersfield boss Carlos Corberán to look for a possible list of replacements for Steve Bruce. Mike Ashley's had talks with Wasps about getting into rugby. I would say no. Also, Guardian, we talked about Wiegman quickly. Denied she signed a new contract, but right now her time goes until 2025. We mentioned Gabriel Slonina yesterday and his work from crossing the pond from Chicago to be a part of Chelsea. Also on the board this morning, Erling Haaland has revealed his bizarre diet. 6,000 calories a day, and this is from the Daily Star. Meals consisting of hearts and livers. 6,000 calories a day that includes special drinking system through filtered water. Manchester Evening News, Cristiano Ronaldo, reportedly interested in the prospect of making a move to Inter Miami in Major League Soccer. Daily Express, Arsenal have a deadline to activate the 2-year option they have to extend Charlie Patino's contract. The 18-year-old's current deal expires at the end of the season. Arsenal has to decide whether to trigger the clause. Leeds Director of Football Victor Orta has been informed that Cody Gakpo no longer interested in joining Leeds in the January window. Arsenal have been tipped to rival Liverpool and Real Madrid for Jude Bellingham. They managed to hold on a spot in the Champions League. Daily Record, Gio van Bronckhorst performed a Rangers U-turn as he now believes he can play Kolak and Morelos together. And Scottish FA chief Ian Maxwell warned of a, quote, horrendous few months for Scottish football and asked for patience from players and supporters as the country gets ready to introduce VAR. God help us all when it comes to that. So that'll be an interesting transition for the Scottish Premiership as they get into that. Let's see. Atletico Madrid interested in signing Bobby Firmino. That's from Toto Fichajes. Leicester keeping tabs on Manchester United Netherlands midfielder Donny van de Beek. And Martinelli, by the way, his current wage is about £50,000 a week. Martinelli wants parity with the Gunners' top earners, about £200,000 a week before he commits to a new deal. Liverpool have no intention of triggering the option to buy clause. And Arthur Melo's season-long loan from Juve needs surgery on an injury sustained in training. Brentford set to hand Ivan Toney a new contract. Everton holding preliminary talks with Alex Iwobi over a new deal. N'Golo Kante wants to stay at Chelsea, but despite being linked at PSG. Jorginho could move to the new camp on a free next summer after his agent was seen in Barcelona. Also, Chelsea made fresh contact with ex-Liverpool sporting director Michael Edwards about filling that position at Stamford Bridge. Tottenham talks with Google over naming rights for their stadium. Google Stadium sponsorship dollars. Let's see. Next month's World Cup could face disruption as Qatar's main airport is not ready to cope with the mass influx of passengers traveling to attend the tournament. That's from the four-letter paper, although that wouldn't surprise me. And let's see. So Manchester United, Arsenal, Real Madrid also shown interest in Cody Gakpo as we remove Leeds from the list. So that's all the news that's fit to print and all the stories that we're keeping an eye on. But obviously the biggest story of the morning is that apparently, allegedly, probably, maybe, Kylian Mbappe wants nothing to do with PSG anymore and wants to be moved in January. So we'll see what happens there. Right now in the matches that are going on, you've got a lot of stuff in Middle East, North Africa, and Eastern Europe. Champions League today. We've got Champions League, so we'll get into that. Once again, FC Copenhagen, Manchester City in Copenhagen at 12:45. Manchester City, big favorite, no shock. Maccabi Haifa hosting Juve. Juve's at a -123 as they go to Maccabi Haifa. Also, you have international friendlies that we've been discussing. A lot of them are at 1 o'clock on the women's side. EFL trophies going on in the lower divisions in England at 2. Netherlands and Norway, women's friendly also at 2. Spain and the U.S., here's your juice boxes. Spain's plus 409. Your draws are plus 311. The U.S. are a minus 185 at 230. One game of the championship, Wigan and Blackburn. Juice boxers have thrown a blanket over the whole thing. They're within the margin of error, basically 170 to 180 for both teams. Draws a plus 212. You've got League One action. You've got lower division action. You've got Premiership in League One in Scotland. 3 o'clock. 6 other matches in Champions League. Dinamo Zagreb and Salzburg. Dinamo Zagreb at home is a dog at a plus 180. Salzburg's a plus 160. Shakhtar Donetsk, and this is at Legia Warsaw in Poland, remember. They've relocated for all of their home matches, taking on Real Madrid. Real Madrid's a minus 227. Shakhtar north of plus 600. Celtic a plus 231 as they host Leipzig at a plus 108. Dortmund a big favorite at home against Sevilla at a minus 217. Milan a dog at home at a plus 239 as Chelsea comes to visit at a plus 127. And PSG, no surprise, a big favorite as Benfica comes to town at a minus 208. International friendly, England and Czech Republic at 3, Scotland and Ireland at 3. Ecuador, Panama is at 4. Then you start to get into the afternoon action with South American leagues, Liga de Expansión. CONCACAF League returns tonight, 8 o'clock. Alajuelense and Real España. Alajuelense is a home favorite at a plus 118. Real España is a plus 217. Primera Nacional out of Argentina. Serie B in Brazil. Colombia, Paraguay goes on at 8:30, and Colombia is a big favorite there. And CONCACAF League doubleheader is at 10:15. Olympia and Motagua in Honduras. Olympia is a plus 108. Your draw is a plus 220, and Motagua is a plus 238. So that is all of the news that is going on and all the juice boxers that have been tied into everything. Let me check viewing habits and see what and where before we go, and see if all of that material has been posted. Oh, a couple of other things. We mentioned the Caleb Porter firing. Stuttgart has fired Pellegrino Matarazzo, and so he'll be looking for work. Nick Alifi has said that Serie A needs to definitely be looking at Matarazzo. A place like Venezia or Major League Soccer should be looking at Matarazzo. So he can, what we've seen from him, keeping a team from relegation and second place finish, avoided relegation last year on goal difference. Second to last this campaign, no wins after 9. They're the only team in the Bundesliga without a victory. So Stuttgart sporting director Sven Mislintat, who was employed in the same position at Arsenal and Dortmund, said all the nice things. New Jersey-born coach played 10 years in the lower divisions in Bundesliga before working with teams in youth divisions as an assistant at Nuremberg and Hoffenheim. So, keep an eye on Pellegrino Matarazzo. I don't anticipate that he will be unemployed for long. But for your TV viewing habits for today, it is the women's friendlies on ESPN2. Spain, USA, that's at 2:30. FS2 has the U17 World Cup going on right now with India and the U.S. That one's on FS2. 2 to NA has one match at 12:45, one match at 3. They've got Manchester City at 12:45, Real Madrid at 3. CONCACAF League doubleheader tonight. Unimas has the simulcast of the matchups on what we see for 2 to NA. Universo is simulcasting the women's match in the U17s right now. B1G tonight has college soccer. ACC Extra has college soccer. ESPN Plus has the championship. A lot of men's college soccer starting at 2 o'clock. Flow FC has their college soccer available starting at 7 o'clock on their platform. Paramount Plus has all of your matches in CONCACAF Champions League, as do VIX and VIX Plus. So that is where you can pick up all of your viewing for the day when it comes to everything in Champions League. So, once again, very, very busy day. Great to have Bart Keeler on. Great to have Jarrett on so he could show us his New England Riverboat Gamblers T-shirt. And I need to get one of those now that I'm thinking about it. But once again, today you've got the women's friendly with the U.S. and Spain. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Bart Keeler joining us at 9:30. Dylan Butler will join us at 10. Later today, once again, since it is Tuesday, our USL programming will be up on the network. Our weekend reviews for USL Championship, USL League One, as they head toward the last weekend of the regular season. Prem and Proper will be up as well. And so it'll be a very, very full day here on the network. And thanks to all of you who come and hang out with us, especially after I can't figure out how to turn on a computer to get a show started on time. So for everybody here at SDH, I'm just John. Thanks for hanging out with us. And thanks for actually, wait a second. Let me see. Before I didn't even get into questions. That's just, wow. That is substandard on my part. So let me see what you guys have been thinking about. I've been talking so fast. We didn't even get to talk about, sorry, I double clutched this. I double clutched. Nix, we're not done. I double clutched it. We didn't get to talk about who to root for when it comes to the playoffs. There wasn't a whole lot not covered, to be honest. But yeah, no, we didn't get to we didn't talk about the whole thing with who we're talking about, who we watching, who we covered. So let me get into that, and then you can get back to your day. Let's see. Rack's rooting for RSL because of a friend. No reason to hate RSL at the moment. Nick, you're going for Montreal. Understood. I get that completely. Rack on the 5, and Ricky's pulling for Austin. Rack subscribed to the 5-second rule. If you haven't watched his stand-up routine on the Germs bit, so I'll have to go back and watch. Michael Valverde, Austin. Rack because of Victor Wanyama. You're not going to root for Montreal. Okay, get that. True, Michael, because you have a dog, you never get 3 seconds. Nix doesn't like Josh Wolf, so Austin's out. Rack is okay with Austin. Don't want him to win MLS Cup. I don't think they will. I think they'll get a rude awakening in the playoffs. Knicks, maybe RSL. Everybody seems to be in agreement. No Los Angeles. Austin would be fun to see. Cincy, Rack. Root for Cincy for Brandon Vasquez. No New York team for the Soccer for Good OG. Maybe Nashville or Cincy. Knicks, you don't hate Cincy with Vasquez. It'd be nice to see. Let's see. But Rack, if you have the numbers that Jarrett brought up about only winning half of the games you had a lead in the final 15 minutes, then that's a concern. Valverde could support Cincinnati. Charlotte might be interesting, but I don't know if he would meet the philosophy currently with the players that they have on hand. Cincy would be cool. Let's see. Will, no, there isn't an opening, but you want Porter and Austin just to flame the Columbus-Austin animosity even more. And we got to figure out who Caleb Porter is. Greenwich Mean Street Posse. That's probably who he is. I finally figured it out. Michael Valverde, Cincy, Austin Cup would be a hoot. It would end 6-5. No doubt about that. And yeah, Jarrett is like Sting, Ricky. He just kind of shows up out of the rafters and surprises everybody. Let's see. I know. Full color video and pop-up QR codes. I mean, literally. Hey, I'm trying. Let's see. Yes. The muffin was not gamey because it was under the expiration date. Do I need a tinfoil hat to discuss VAR? Is it just widely accepted it's disallowed for not soccer reasons? And so there you go. Okay, so now that we've discovered, and what I'll do is that might be a question as we lead into the playoffs. It might be a question that we read every day. And so you decided Cincy, Knicks. Okay, so it might be for those of us that rejoin us on a daily basis, who are you rooting for now that since Atlanta's out of the gig? Then we'll read from there. But okay. All right, now we're done. And we'll ask the question again tomorrow. So once again, Bart will join us at 9:30. Dylan Butler joins us at 10. And all the programming here later in the day. And since it is the end of the show, mucha plot to y'all. And that means that I get to do this. See you tomorrow.